Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. So, today we're going to continue. A couple disclaimers before I start. I'm getting a little bit migrainey again. This isn't as bad. It's like mini grain, but I have not felt very good at all this second week of my reverse dieting process. I haven't felt good in a while, I'm gonna be honest, but this one, I don't know. It's a weird one. But yeah, it's a little bit migrainey, so I'm a little depression-y, migrainey vibes. So we'll see how this goes. I'm gonna have to hope that the girls cheer me up, but they won't. I know they won't. But I don't have like super fighty spirit right now. So let's go ahead and listen.
Lee, it looks like you've gained some weight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, looks like you gained some fucking audacity.
Oh, geez. So I don't know. I know a lot of people don't like commenting on weight gain. I get it. It can be triggering for the toxic ritualistic for sure. I don't know, I don't know what the answer is because it's kind of like, do we pretend it isn't happening? Do we say something? I don't know. I think either way it's bad. So I feel like my advice in that situation is kind of like choose your own adventure. You have to really read the room or read the person to know if it would help or not. But it's tough. It's a tough thing. It really is. Of course, that happens. 1 second.
Wait, let me do another one for you.
Okay.
Oh, Allie, you're bringing that chocolate pecan pie. Looks so good, but that's just too much sugar for me.
Why would anyone care? I don't even understand. Let's see what Ali says, though, because this is like really controlling over what other people eat. Again, I'm migraine-y. I'm already disgusted feeling. So, like I said, I don't think the girls are going to make me feel better. I just don't.
Well, you're too much of a bitch for me, Grandma, so.
That's kind of way too much, I think.
Oh my gosh.
That is, to be fair,
I know, I'm
that
deceased.
would work with my grandma. Rest in peace, Grandma. Because of the fact we did have that kind of relationship where
I thought so. I thought they did. She's the grandma that said, did you keep your mouth shut or whatever? I had a feeling, which that upset some of you guys, but I know that different families are different, and I had a feeling they had that type of relationship. If it's like in a joking way, then okay, sure. Okay, sure. If it's not serious, but if it is serious, then I think it's way too far. I'll put it to you that way. I think it's way too far. It's really weird. I also want to say too, it's interesting to me that there's audacity in pointing out weight gain when it's supposed to not matter to the fat acceptance activist if they're fatter or not. It's supposed to be totally fine no matter what. So that was like a little interesting thing there where it kind of betrays the true feelings.
When she made that comment to me about my body, I was like, you know what, Grandma, I love you so much, and I do hope that you live to see your birthday next year. So, it would work with mine. Maybe don't try it out on your sweet Grandma Lou, but on mine it would have worked.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I would have gone with a classic Taryn response on that.
Let's go. Okay. Hey, you brought that chocolate pecan pie to dinner, Alyssa. It looks delicious, but I can't have it.
That's so sad for you.
Okay. Is that supposed to be like a... I don't even know. Would anyone really care? You know what I mean? I don't even know why this one is a prompt. This is kind of stupid. I wouldn't care. Honestly, I would not care at all. People are busy doing what they're doing. I can understand if somebody says something about what you're doing. That's a bit much. And that might actually warrant some kind of a boundary. But somebody else saying what they're going to do, it just doesn't even make sense to even care.
I like it.
Just saying.
It is. It's a little spicy.
It's so
It's a little
sad for
spicy.
you.
Let's take it down. Let's take it down to the...
It's passive aggressive. But it's so passive that it's almost like, okay. You know, it's just it's kind of odd, in my opinion.
Rebecca meter.
Oh God,
More
what is
for
my
me.
meter?
Honestly, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I it's so sad, but I'm like, if someone were to say like, "Oh, you have that? Looks good, but it's too basically fattening, right, or something like that," I'd just probably be like, "Oh." And that's why my responses don't get much reaction.
Oh.
I love that. A short
Wow.
response and a long gaze.
I feel like we gotta change our.
Yeah, I think oh would be okay, or just nothing at all, or just okay. I just don't even see how that's anything.
Meter?
I find it strange there, like I said, the obsession with somebody else eating something is bizarre. And I hope that that does kind of show the toxic ritualistic logic or the weirdness of it, because it is odd to be so invested in if somebody else is eating pie or not. It's bizarre. And why does it tend to happen within the toxic ritualistic? It's because you're comparing yourself. So it's one of those aspects of toxic ritualistic comparison, which often it has to do with how you look, but it can also have to do with how much you're eating or how little you're eating. And so you'll see a lot of fat activists that have these issues. The E followed by the letter D, I call it the toxic ritualistic on this channel. You'll see them talk about these issues, and there's that comparison aspect, which can also be competitive at times, but it's more so about everybody is sort of like a mirror of you. And remember, there's an issue with seeing yourself as an individual. So if somebody else changes something about their diet, then you have to, because they did. So that's why they feel a need to say anything at all or to have any kind of a reaction to somebody else choosing not to eat pie. It just doesn't even make sense at all. I just don't even know why it would come up, especially when you're both adults and that kind of thing. I can understand it like within very specific contexts, like health conditions or something specific where there's like a real physical reason where maybe you're like, maybe you shouldn't have that, you know? But if we're talking like somebody choosing not to have something, I don't see it as that big of a deal at all, especially if it's like the vast majority of people that don't have a reductive issue, which remember is the vast majority of people. So they will be quick. When you're super in the toxic ritualistic, oftentimes you will project a reductive issue on others, but it's because you're projecting your own condition, like your own mental health issue on other people. And they just like reverse it. It's kind of like a cognitive protection thing, because one of the aspects of Hinge specifically is you try to gaslight yourself into not having the problem. So again, people say I have food addiction. People say I'm just naturally this way. They'll say I don't know why I'm this big, right? They'll try to work politics into it somehow, or religion, anything to to not see the problem. Part of it is there is a dissociative aspect of it, which a lot of people don't understand. That's why I do tell you guys it is delusional. Like, and I mean like actually like clinical delusion levels where you're actually delusional. You lie to yourself so often that you actually dissociate from reality and you don't understand what you're doing anymore. And somebody can even point it out to you and you'll just outright deny it. And people will do this even just like with like calorie consumption. People do this about like, you know, weight being a choice, for example. They cannot see this as reality. They're like, no, it's not. It's not. What do you mean? It's not. And you can tell them, and it's like, it's literally, it is like a psychological break in a sense. And I think people just don't catch it because it's very, very, what's the word? I'm having a hard time with this brain right now. It's very specific to that one issue. There's another word, I can't think of it. Oh, compartmentalized. It's extremely compartmentalized. So it's like a very, very compartmentalized delusion. But there are times where people will hinge and they'll actually dissociate while they're doing it. And you like go into this weird state where it's like you're not really processing what you're doing at the time. You just kind of like, you feel the physical sensations kind of, but you don't actually think about it at all. And a lot of people will like watch TV while they do it or something. Like it's very weird. And when I think about it, like when I think back on it, it is kind of crazy how often that would happen, where it's like you're watching TV and you're just like eating and you're not even thinking about it at all. It's really odd, but it's a part of that. Like it's like a dissociation from reality, and it creates like it goes into these cognitive beliefs and stuff that are completely false, and people just cannot deal. So yeah, that's partially why they will project that somebody has a reductive issue, because they are delusional, specifically, is what I was trying to say, I believe. So again, sorry, you got to work with migraine brain. We love this process of climbing out of the deficit. I'm doing great. Can't you guys tell? I'm doing amazing. I'm doing absolutely amazing with it.
Here.
Yeah, my response is
feel
almost like a no response.
I feel like there's just a dismiss.
Yeah, it's
Rebecca's going to be dismissive.
Literally, you know what the funniest thing is? I think the reason I said something the one time that person's body was being talked about is because they were not involved in the conversation, and it wasn't
Well, and they were continuing and continuing.
It was, so like at first they're saying something, I'm just like, I'm giving the non-response, right? Yeah. But then every new person comes in, I'm like, what are we? Does this person just volunteer? You know, like there's a point where I get there, but that point is.
Yeah, she's slower to getting upset. She's not as reactive as the other girls. So it takes her more to be upset. Which, you know, not every single person with these issues is hyperreactive. I think for her, she just she's one of those types where she tries to intellectualize everything. That's kind of her style. It's her style of being, whereas I think the other two, they're very emotionally reactive. And I think oh my gosh, I'm blanking on their names. I'm telling you, I'm struggling here, but I'm like, I'm going to show up. That's a part of it, you know. You show up to life. You show up to things, even if you're not perfect. It's a huge part of my activism. But anyways, the one that claims to have a reductive issue, I cannot remember her name right now. She's more like she kind of like reacts and freezes, or she'll start to cry, and then Allie is like openly hostile and aggressive. So they're that's like the trifecta of them. Rebecca, she intellectualizes everything. Allie becomes outwardly hostile. And I cannot think of her name for the life of me. I'm sorry. I'm blaming the migraine. But she freezes or cries. So it's interesting, but that's just kind of their personalities. But you can kind of see how they still all have the issue, but it can show up in different ways. And I think for me personally, I've done all of them within the TR. There have been situations, like I remember this one time when I was a teenager where my grandma was pointing out that I was gaining weight like crazy. And I just went into Allie mode and I was like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. No, I'm not losing weight. I don't want to talk about it at all. And then there's other times where it's like, I would have more of the frozen response, where it's like I'd hear, like one time I heard my aunt say something and I just like froze. And I was devastated, and I like I think I went to the bathroom and cried or something. That was when I was younger. And as far as the intellectualization, there have been a lot of times where I do that, for sure. Like, but it's kind of like, well, it's because of this amount of food, or, you know, that's kind of where you go into some political stuff, or, you know, which I don't know if I did that as much, to be honest. I'm trying to think. I don't think I did. I think for me, maybe it was more religious. I don't know. I think for me, there was like a religious drive where it was like, if I'm bigger, then I'm not going to sin as much because I'm limited. Like, I didn't trust myself to have self-control, which is kind of crazy to think about. But again, these are like toxic thoughts. Like, you have to remember, it doesn't have anything to do with actual religion or politics. It's just weird. It's just serving the problem. But I think I had those thoughts, like, because I was very straight edge in high school, and I was like, I don't want to be tempted to go to a party. I don't know what I would do there. That kind of thing. So it's better that I'm bigger because I'm not invited. You see? And that, in the justification, or like the thought process, was that kind of religious morality aspect of like, I'll be a better person if I'm bigger. But you see it now, but it's a lot of times like political, like, but it's the same type of logic. It's like, instead of I'll be a better Christian or I'll be more moral because I'm bigger, it's I'll be more, I don't know, feminist because I'm bigger. I don't care what men think, right? But it's the same thing. It's like, I'm a more moral person because I'm bigger in this way or another way, politically, religiously, etc. But it's all bullshit. I need you to understand. It's complete bullshit. There's no merit to it whatsoever. But it's like, that's how I would intellectualize. That's like a way of intellectualizing it, in a sense, even though it's not very intellectual, but it's, you know, I'll put it to you that way. I know that's complicated, but that's kind of how I would do it a lot. Like, when I was in high school, it was those kind of lines. Like, I don't know what I'll do. I didn't trust myself, which is a weird thing to say, but, you know, which I kind of, when I got older, I just was crazy anyway. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't that crazy, but I still was like, I have my issues. We all do. I mean, to me, the toxic ritualistic, it's not a moral thing at all. So it's just kind of funny to think about from that, like, religious perspective, because it's so immoral, obviously. But, you know, it's hypocrisy. It's similar, you know, with the feminism thing. It's like, you're disempowering yourself as a woman by being so big, but you claim that it's empowering. You know, it's like, it's that hypocriticalness, but it's because it's not, it's disordered, you know. And people say these buzzwords and stuff because it's a way to get people off their back, and it's also a way to justify to yourself. There's a lot of justification in Hinge, especially when you're really bad. There's so much justification, especially if you're so huge, because it takes a lot of justification. Like, you really have to convince yourself that there's some reason you're doing it because it's so awful. And I think that that's why. It's because it is so awful that there has to be some reason that you're continuing or maintaining that super morbidly obese status. There has to be, because it's so difficult, you know? And again, these women, they're not as big as they look. They have these angle, like the angle is so bad in a sense where it makes them look really, really, really big. But they're still big enough where there's problems, I'm sure. And it's still difficult to justify. But that's, you know, I'm just saying. And for the record, who'd have thought, you know, being reasonable in this area of life, I didn't suddenly throw out every belief I had because I'm thinner. That didn't happen. I didn't suddenly, you know what I'm saying? Like, if anything, I'm living more in line with my belief system today. Which, you know, if anybody's interested, I have a hybridized faith. I'll just tell you guys because I just need to be clear, because some of you guys might be confused. But I'm a spiritualist Christian, so I have two religions, which people hate that, but you know me, I have to be difficult. I'm a spiritualist Christian spiritualist. So, but anyways, that's for like the two of you that cared. But that's probably why you're like, what? Why are you saying you're a Christian but you believe in astrology? It's because I have a hybridized faith that I don't need to get into deeply, but I'm just saying, being out of the toxic ritualistic, it's more in line with both of my religions, because it just makes sense. Because duh. But, you know, it's just... You're probably going to live more in line with your belief system. It doesn't work. This belief system, like this whole thing, the toxic ritualistic, it doesn't really fit with anything at all. Even if you're going with like a totally straight up like atheist view, it just doesn't make any material sense to be super morbidly obese or to be in the toxic ritualistic. Like, it doesn't matter. There is no justification. It does not exist. It doesn't exist. And same thing politically. It doesn't matter where you're at on the spectrum. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. But, you know, that is a huge part of it. And that's the intellectualization aspect, which again, I've done all three of them. And that's why it's weird for me to watch them sometimes, because I've done all of them. I've done them all.
Repeated them not reacting to my non-response. Yeah. So like if someone were to say something about my food or like, and the thing is, like, now I will fully admit, like, having had the weight loss surgery, I do notice my family looks at what I put on my plate. Okay. Especially my dad. Like, I feel his gaze on my body, and I feel his gaze on my plate. Okay. And he doesn't say anything.
My mom does it, and it drives me nuts. It does. It drives me nuts. But I understand the TR is a thing, and people do monitor. And it often runs in families. Like, it's not anything personal against my mom. It's just a part of the condition. But people watch like a hawk what people are doing. And it's not personal. I think people need to understand that. It isn't personal at all. It's just people are curious. They're extremely curious. And again, there's a comparison aspect. So remember, within Hinge, it's not always outwardly competitive or straight up competitive, but it's always comparing, which that's why there's so much jealousy within Hinge, because It's like I have to compare myself to a thin celebrity, or I have to compare myself to a fat person who lost weight. So now I'm jealous. You see, it's a very jealous system of, like, it sets you up to be a jealous person very, very easily because you're always comparing. And I've heard the saying, comparison is the thief of joy. It's true. It's definitely true in the TR. Absolutely, 100%. 100,000%.
But I see him looking,
Yeah.
okay? I see it and I ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
Hold up. Alana in Texas?
Hold on. Okay, sorry about that.
It would have to be someone saying something to me for me to be like, okay. The other day, someone in my life came in and were like, oh, you look like you're losing weight again. And, you know, you don't want to backtrack on all that progress you've made, you know? And that was what was happening. And at first, I was like, she said, have you been losing weight more? I go, no. Like, that was my response.
Mm-hmm.
No. Kept going, right? And then eventually I was like, we're not talking about weight today.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, okay, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the biggest thing. Usually, people just want to get you to stop talking about it. Because the whole point, you have to remember, with all of them, with every type of toxic ritualistic, there is a hiding aspect to all of them. And that does exist in Hinge too. But it's hard to hide because it physically shows. So you have to like have the skills of like a corrupt political campaign manager in order to shift the focus. Like, I'm telling you, I mean, those skills, the Hinge skills could probably be applied to a career in that, you know, maybe in another life. Maybe if you believe in multiple universes, maybe that's me. In this one, I quit politics happily. I'm so glad I'm done. But that's a whole other discussion. But yeah, I'm just saying, I mean, the skill set, the ability to shift focus, the ability to not answer a question or to answer a question without actually answering it. I mean, it's like, it's, again, political campaign manager levels. It's crazy what you have to do because, duh, it shows. So, of course, you have to do it. But again, when you're living in that much deception, it causes, it can run so deep that it becomes dissociative within Hinge. If it's severe, you have to remember it's always a severity thing. But it can become so deceptive that you start to lose touch, even internally. So, yeah, because you have to. I mean, how are you going to try to convince somebody that you're not eating that much when you are so big? I mean, really try to, like, for those of you guys who have never been super big, like, think about what that would entail. How would you actually go about doing that? And it's literal political tactics, it's gaslighting, straight up. It's you know, just repeating lies over and over again. It's all that stuff because that's what it takes. And then it does encourage you to put out a false image a lot of the time too, which is, it's very caustic to the soul. It's very hard, especially when you're in the part of Hinge where you're starting to perform health and you're starting to act like you're trying to get it under control, but you're not actually doing that. That's hard too. So, again, this issue, it dies outside of secrecy and it dies in honesty. Those are the two things where they really will kill it eventually. Because if you start to show people what you're doing, you really see how bad it actually is. Like, you have to kind of gaslight yourself too into thinking that it's normal or something, which a lot of fat acceptance, that's all it is they're all trying to, those that have that issue, they're all trying to encourage each other and tell each other that it's okay, basically. That's basically what it is. So it's all, this is what I eat in a day as a fat person, and it's like totally not normal. It's like 3,500 calories, and it's like, and she's like a 5'2" woman, and it's like 3,500, and she's completely sedentary, and it's like, whoa, that's a lot, you know. That'd be a lot even for me. Like, even for me, even if I'm, you know, it's like I would start gaining weight if I was eating 3,500. Absolutely. You know, my maintenance will be, I'm 6'1". My maintenance will be like 2,800. So it's like, you know, if a 5'2" woman is eating 3,500 calories on her what I eat in a day as a fat person who doesn't care about losing weight, she's normalizing that. But then you're not even just normalizing those big days, but because they still don't show the hinge. You notice they don't. But they're so used to hinging that they think that eating 3,500 calories as a 5'2" woman is normal. And it's not. Especially not being sedentary. It's not normal. And that's a part of that normalization. So it's like, okay, so then another woman that's maybe similar will see that video and think, okay, I'm fine then. When I eat 4,200 some days, that's just a little bit more. It's not a big deal. But it's like, honey, that's probably a hinge day. That's a lot for you, you know? And, you know, if you're sitting down and you're having a meal and that meal is like 3,000 calories, I'm just saying, you know, that's a lot. And if that's happening often enough, honey, TR, babes, definitely got the problem. You know, it has to happen often, but, oh, honey, it happens very often. For a lot of these people that are very, very big, it's happening a lot. But you do hide it. Because you get into this, like, I don't know how much I can say, but like the emotional quality of it is like, it's like being a scavenger or something. And you don't want to show people that. You don't. You just don't. Because it's weird. You know?
She continued, but not to me directly. And so I'll just be like, we're not doing that.
Yeah, we're not doing this. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and it does take me multiple pokes to get to that. But even then, I don't like to be confrontational.
Yeah.
I just want to shut it down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's why I think the scale is really important, because there is no right or wrong.
Right.
There is no right or wrong. It is your boundary setting, and it's what you are comfortable with, right?
And then they just like reinforce it in each other. And that's always been so interesting with this podcast, is you can see it happening like straight up. Like they are three friends literally encouraging each other towards death. I mean, let's talk about what it really is. And it's wild. So she says, oh, if any discussion about my weight comes up, or if I'm ever being faced with the reality of it, I shut it down. And then she goes, yes, and that's so valid. And that's such a good, there's no right or wrong way to handle it, blah, blah, blah. It's like, whoa. Whoa. You know? It's a lot.
You might even feel more inclined to hold harder boundaries with some people and looser boundaries with others, because you might not see them as often.
Yeah.
Well, and also coming from someone who's had to learn, you know, with having borderline personality disorder and having to learn about boundary setting and about, you know, managing my own.
Remember that all of the E followed by the letter D's are associated with borderline.
Feelings and emotions and things like that. There are people that in your life that are safer to set boundaries with than others, right?
Yeah.
There are people like you two, I feel super safe to set safe boundaries with, right? There are boundaries that I would set with you that I wouldn't set with other people.
Yes.
And there are boundaries I wouldn't set with you that I would set with other people because they don't apply to you, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and I even think that there's a different level. Like, to me, and this all is depending on you as a person, right? Like, if they were to say something about me and my eating my body, or they're saying something about someone else's eating in their body, I get way more flamed up than if they were to talk about themselves, because I tend to recognize that them talking about themselves comes from internalized fat phobia, right? They're speaking on all the things we just said exist out in the world, right?
Yeah.
Like, so
They're actively victims to it.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So
You
like,
know?
So they'll blame like a system, like I don't know, that kind of thing. It's very nebulous. They'll blame that kind of thing, but I think it's more so that she can recognize that they have the struggle that she has, but they're not externalizing it, and that's good enough for her, basically. And I think it's because it's still, when you see somebody struggling with it, it's still reinforcing. It's kind of weird because it makes you feel more normal. So if somebody else is having that E fall by letter D issue, and you know that you have it too, even if it's subconsciously, and again, sometimes it is, especially in the case of Hinge, where it's like totally delulu a lot of the time, it still hits you subconsciously, and you're just like, oh, well, I struggle with my body too. So they make me feel more normal, Whereas, like, if I were to say, like, I don't know, half the things I say on this channel, it wouldn't. They'd be like, whoa. Or if I'm like, yeah, I'm losing weight currently, and it's for vanity, and da-da-da. But you see how there isn't, like, any, like, deep, like, emotional turmoil about it. Most of the time that I talk about it negatively, I'm frustrated with the process, or like in this current state, I'm getting a lot of migraines and stuff because I've been so adjusted to this deep deficit for literal years. And I have the deep toxic ritualistic past, so my brain is a little bit like, ooh, So these shifts, it's kind of a lot. And I told you guys in my health updates, like my serotonin's going up as I increase my calories, which is good because it regulates appetite. But those fluctuations can cause migraines and things like that during the process. And my brain is just really sensitive and fried because I went for such a long time. So it's like, for me, I complain about the process, or I'm complaining about a migraine or something, but there isn't this like emotional turmoil with how I look, or this like, gosh, like that's not really happening. It's more so, this is really hard and I'm sick of it. But when you hear what I'm doing, it's reasonable. I'm climbing out of a deficit. I'm at 2,100 calories right now. I'm going to be, tomorrow, Thursday, I'm going up to 22. It's nothing crazy. You see? So, and that would be like such a bother, where it's like, oh my gosh, you're tracking so much, or oh my gosh, you're doing this, or oh my gosh, you're doing that, because it's like, I can't do that, or I can't see myself doing that. I'm comparing myself to you, so it bothers me that you're doing that, even if it has nothing to do with her. She would have a huge issue. I guarantee you, they all would have a huge issue with the way I talk about my diet, the way I talk about my journey, all these things, because there isn't that emotional distress behind what I'm saying. There's more of a frustration with the process, or there's just having to be so focused as I'm doing vanity weight, pursuing a certain level of athleticism, essentially, which it takes a lot of effort, which they don't want to do. But it's like, I want to improve myself, I want better for myself, blah, 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 blah. That kind of line of thought, it's threatening to somebody. It's not reinforcing. So it's like a problem, you see? And it's a problem, especially because of the comparison. Because I can assure you, like, when I see, like, for example, I love to use Eric as an example. He was eating, I think he said at his lowest, he was eating 1640. I don't hear him say that and think, oh my gosh, I could never do or like whatever. I don't get upset about it. To me, I'm like, the lowest I got to was 1928. And I couldn't do it anymore. But I don't compare to him. I don't really care. It's like, that's where he's at. That's what he was pursuing. That's this and that and the other. For me, this is where I'm at. So I don't feel any kind of way. I don't feel like he one-upped me. I don't feel that. Because I'm slightly taller than him. So it's just different. So it doesn't make any sense to even have that mindset, because it's going to be different for everybody. But I'm just saying, you can see what I mean in that there isn't that emotional trigger behind it or that anxiety behind it. That's what it is. There's no anxiety. I don't have anxiety. I'm not living in a mystery of what is going on with me. It's very obvious to me what's going on. I have a certainty, and that certainty breeds a certain level of confidence, and that would be triggering to her. It'd be triggering to someone like Rebecca. She wouldn't like that because I feel somewhat confident, and she'd be like, ew, you know?
So I can still be affected by them doing that. It can still make me be like, oh gosh, they're saying they can't have a single role and here I am having two, or whatever that thing might be, right? It still affects me, but I take it less personally. I get less upset about it. Doesn't mean I don't need to set boundaries around it.
Yeah.
Because whenever everyone's sitting around, like, believe me, my family.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard when you all have those issues.
2 of us have had weight loss surgery.
Yeah.
3 or 4 of us in the group have diabetes. Of those, 3 of them are on GLP-1s. Everyone at some point in their life in my family has attempted to lose weight. Actively right now, I'd say majority
What
of them
I
are
will say as a comfort is, if you get out of the problem, if you get out of the toxic ritualistic, it does inspire others in your family too as well, because they see that you're not doing it and that you're still alive. Because you have to remember, it's a matter of, I feel like I have to do this or I'm going to die. That's the way it feels. So if they see you do it, they see you get out, they see you leave behind a lot of these thought processes and stuff as an example, it inspires, and it can help your whole family. It's like, oh, if you could do it, then I could. It hits deep. So just as they can all reinforce each other in a family, they can also reinforce recovery in a family too. It works both ways. I don't want to be too negative, because it does work both ways.
To lose weight, I'm going into a situation of people who have been overweight their entire lives and are actively trying to not be overweight. Mm-hmm. And I'm the only one that has been part of that system, but also doesn't like how coercive, controlling, limited that view is. Mm-hmm. So I probably am the one. I'm the only one that's willing to kind of push back.
There's nothing as coercive, controlling, and limiting as the toxic ritualistic. That is probably one of the worst ways to think that exists in the entire world. It is awful. I think that is another projection. You know, it's just horrible. It's really awful.
At some of these ideas. Yeah. And I recognize I'm going into that space. So a lot of it is me thinking how to protect myself in a space where I know the majority are going to be thinking this way. And how do I deal with that? Yeah. You know, because I think one of the big differences is, and I don't know if this is a big difference or not, maybe this is an assumption I'm making about your family, is I know your dad talks a lot about it. I don't know to what extent your mom talks about health. It seems like your sisters are allies to you at this point.
At this point,
yeah.
Yes.
And so you're going into maybe a little different situation than people who are currently all trying to lose weight.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elicited might be the right word, enticed and elicited. Thank you. I might have elicited some fear.
So I think for her too, because she's claimed that she's had the reductive side of it, she's really, really weaponized that a lot. And I think that scares people. It's very scary when you have Hinge. It's like almost like your worst nightmare situation would be that you'd end up, with Anna, basically. It's probably similar when you switch it, but that's basically, it's like, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine. That would be the worst thing ever. So she uses that and she weaponizes that within her family system. And so now they're like going along with her. And that's why a lot of them claim to have it. They claim to, be atypical because it's effective. And you see them do that on TikTok and publicly too, but you have to understand they have the opposite one. They do have a problem. It is there. But it's Hinge. That's the problem.
From my
Which again, I know I keep cutting it off, but people that are with Anna, they will sometimes say that they have Hinge too. So both sides will weaponize it, but just remember Hinge is a lot more common, so you hear it a lot more. And I think that just has to do with, maybe food availability, things like that. In the US, it tends to register differently, basically.
extended family around talking about food and body image around me. And I think that's okay.
Yes.
I think I have often said to the extended family, I don't need you to know anything about an eating disorder. I don't need you to do research. I don't need you to understand it. Forget about all of it. But maybe just the common sense is, let's not talk about food at all.
Yeah.
To someone who has an eating disorder.
So it's good for her she uses that to shut down discussion. So that's where you get now people are trying to use psychological terms and stuff, but it doesn't matter. Remember, it's like you don't have to not talk about food in front of somebody with that problem. Like, that's kind of stupid. Like, if you have that problem, you need to work on it. You need to be able to have conversations about it. You need to get to a place where you need to face triggers and you need to get over them. Because, again, somebody talking about what they're going to eat, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't. It just doesn't mean anything to you. And if it does, that's weird. Eric telling me he ate 1640, it doesn't do anything to me. Just like me saying I ate 1928, it doesn't do anything to you as a normal person. Nobody cares because it's you're a separate person, and that's what's so hard. And it's a part of it. Like, you have to separate that, I'm just saying. But all she's doing is trying to silence it. And I don't know that silence works with You Fall by the Letter D necessarily. Because again, it's always secretive and that kind of stuff. And usually you're being silent out of shame or because you don't want to deal with it, basically. Like, most people are somewhat understanding, or you could explain it and they would somewhat understand, even if it's disturbing. People can kind of understand if you try to explain it. And I mean, like, actually try, like, and are actually honest, which is really hard because so many people lie. But I'm just saying, like, as a person that is recovering, it's not like, it doesn't have to be the most taboo thing. Like, there are people around you that love you and they want you to get better. And it's like, it's going to be okay. And I don't really like the way she did that. It's kind of like encouraging to hide it further in other people that have it. And she would say, oh, I'm not doing that. But that is the implication of what you're saying. You know?
Yeah.
I think
You know,
Alyssa
I
is
feel
her
like that's
name.
pretty safe.
I think it just clicked. I think her name's Alyssa. But that is what, yeah. That is what Alyssa is doing. She's encouraging that. And she won't, well, like I said, she claims she isn't, but it's kind of like a subconscious thing. It's really hard to explain. But it's like, of course she is, because she's trying to reinforce it in other people. And why? It's because you want to reinforce it in yourself. Remember, it's always selfish. It's always about the person. It's not about everybody else. It's about you. You want to reinforce other people so that you will be reinforced. That's the whole thing. That's the whole part of it.
Yeah. Don't say if it's good. Don't say if it's bad. Don't just say nothing. Literally nothing. Not the food
Shut
is
down
delicious.
discussion.
Just say
Shut it down. Don't talk about it at all. I don't want to hear anything ever. Straight out of the TR handbook. Super typical. It's so typical. And the thing that kills me is that they think that they're so original. You're not original. You know, if you're original, I was original when I did it in 2008 or whatever, 2009 or 10, when I was in high school. And I had that I will never forget that moment where I completely shut down the conversation with my grandma. Because it's kind of rare that I've yelled at my grandma. And that was a moment that I did, and I remember it because of that. Because I don't really have that type of relationship where I yell at my grandma. I have before, though. We have had fights, obviously. I mean, hello. I'm me, right? But it's rare. Whereas, like, with me and my mom, we fight all the time. So I don't know. If I remembered every single yelling match with my mom with that level of clarity, I'd have, like, you know, I don't know, OCD levels of memory retention. Like, it'd be like, it's just so often that it's just, you know, it's a different dynamic. Me and my mom are both brats, so we're bratty. So it is what it is, you know. For my Astro Girly Pops, she's Mars in Sag and I'm Mars in Gemini. So we clash. We clash, but those are the two bratty Mars, in my opinion. They're the most brat of all the Mars. But anyways, and they are opposites, which is interesting. The point is, I remember that moment. And it's not original if I was doing it way back then in high school as a teenager. And I'm sure so many of you have also done it. You know, it's not original. You're not special. It's typical. Which, you know, it's sad. It is sad. It's typical. It's typical to silence the discussion. Super typical.
nothing. It's safe. You know? There are so many other things to talk about besides food.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, of course. Okay, you guys, so I'm going to go ahead and shut down this conversation because I don't want to talk about losing weight. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to channel my high school self again, but I'm just saying I'm going to go ahead and go. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one. See you soon.